What's up, everybody? Here we go for another First Impression BJJ episode. First, I would like to ask you guys if you can subscribe, like, and share this video. Would be great so we can keep sharing our content of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience and maybe motivate more people to try it out. Today, as guests, we're going to have Lindsay from Vancouver, brown belt, teacher champions, martial arts, and we're going to get to know a little bit of his experience and his knowledge of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you guys leave a comment, and enjoy the podcast. What's going on? How is everything over Vancouver, Sean?
Man, I think we can't complain too much. I'm sure we could, but to keep it like positive, right now we're able to have classes for people who are under 19 years old, and so a lot. It's nice to be able to have our teens class going and our kids class going at the academy, and yeah, definitely missing the adult students though, for sure, in the group classes.
I'm sure missing the crowd, right? It's like just different having like a few people around. I'm sure. I know you guys have like some students, but right now the numbers are down for sure, right? Like it's not everybody that's training. How is it like actually? You have some numbers?
I would say right now I've got maybe 2/3, a little bit less than 2/3 of what I had before, and that was already of a fairly small group for the jiu-jitsu program at Champions. It's primarily focuses on like kids programs for karate and kickboxing, and so it's a smaller program. Jiu-jitsu's always been kind of like a smaller portion of the population there, but about 2/3 for the overall school, like 50% maybe.
50%. Okay, that's still pretty good, but these 50%, do you think people are just taking a time or people kind of quit it?
I think taking their time for right now for adults, like as far as for the no contact portion, you can have 2 people for 1 instructor. And there's not supposed to be any contact in between them. So I think a lot of people are just like waiting till they can come back to what they're used to, like group classes or even being in a pod. Back before mid-November, we were allowed pods, and that made running classes a lot easier because you could be up to a group of 10, and then you could kind of try to like set that up, and people could come and train with a few different people in the pod. And so
yes, I remember that. That's actually yes, I remember that. I remember seeing some stuff. We actually did run some stuff in Toronto like that, and it kind of worked out in the beginning, right? You have like that. The bubbles, right? Kind of bubble stuff. You have like 4 or 5 persons that you can train with, but now not even that, right? Not even this is not happening. So unfortunately, this I hope this can end really soon, man. It's already a year or so, and we just keep moving forward without actually do the work and do the stuff that we like, right?
Yeah, I definitely hoping by September we can be back to like most of the population vaccinated for the adult population. So
did you guys start a vaccination over Vancouver?
They just started rolling out vaccines. I know in the first phase, several of my students, at least like 4, are going to be able to be vaccinated within the first round. But for the majority, I think, at least for like my age demographic, which is I'm like 34, I think like the earliest June. I think there was an update on that, but before that, it was previously scheduled for I think August, September. So at that point, we were hoping to return for some kind of group classes by December, but hopefully now it can be sooner.
You hope that we can get this vaccine on schedule, right? So we keep rolling out pretty good. But anyways, man, the COVID, it's been the subject for the whole year. I don't want to keep talking about it. So let's get into some of jiu-jitsu. So Sean, I would like you to kind of like tell a little bit of yourself. How was the beginning? Like how was your first class? Let's start with that. How was your first class in jiu-jitsu?
Man, so when I first started training, I'm still at the academy I started at Champions, and I'm teaching there now. And when I first started,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
First place. So I got like my first stripe on my white belt there, and still there. And so it's been.
Wow, that's amazing.
I started there October 2009, end of October 2009, and then I remember my first couple classes were kickboxing, and I would see at the time there was a purple belt teaching the jiu-jitsu classes, and his warm-ups were like crazy. And my friend's like, man, like you got to come. And I was like, that looks really intense. Like I feel like I need some like to get into like better, I need to get into better shape before I start. But
yeah,
nothing you do is going to prepare you for it other than just going in and going through the process. And I remember the first class, I was really tired. It was a little nervous, but it was fun. It felt pretty natural. And then it didn't take very long to where I just started focusing on jiu-jitsu and wasn't even doing any kind of kickboxing anymore. So
and just forget about kickboxing, just fully jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. It took about like a year and a half, maybe 2 years most. But then I was just wanting to do jiu-jitsu.
Oh, so you still training, like you're doing both then for a year or 2 years, like Muay Thai and kickboxing and jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did you decide? Like you saw the class and then you looked at the class, or like your friend was like, okay, let's go to jiu-jitsu. How was it?
Man, so I specifically signed up because I had the option to train like both disciplines at the academy. And then, but there was way less jiu-jitsu classes on the schedule. There was like 1 or 2 a week or so. And and then I ordered my gi, and it took like 2-3 weeks for the gi to arrive. So in that period, I was just waiting for like the gi to arrive to take the class. And I remember, just watching all those warm-ups every time I'd walk past at that class time, and just be like, man, it like built a lot of anticipation for it.
Yeah. A lot of expectation too, right? Like, okay, I want to go and try it. On your first class, did you get in an intro class, or they just throwed you like
just right into the class? Like right in the class was a purple belt teaching. His name was Mahan, and had him. And then in the first like year and a half to 2 years, it cycled. I think went through like 3 or 4 different instructors or something like that. Like it went very, very guys would be around like 4 or 5 months, and then they would get their friend to start covering for them as they were like maybe teaching somebody else. And then it took about a year and a half, 2 years for us to find a full-time instructor at the time. And then, I was with him from white to brown belt. So.
Oh, with the new instructors.
Yeah. And so it took like, I think it was the fall of 2011. So just about 2 years. And then we actually had like expanded the jiu-jitsu program. It was something I was working at the academy by then. And we had wanted to find someone who could come in, be maybe a little more committed, and then have like more class times to try to grow the program.
Oh, wow. So, man, I'm really surprised. Like, so Sean is like a teammate, he's from the same team, Jiu-Jitsu for Life, out in Vancouver. We know each other for a few years already, right? I've been coming to Vancouver, and I go to Vancouver, he comes to Toronto. And I never knew, I never knew that you, since white belt, you've been a champions, man. That's like a nice, like, to me, I like this idea of not being the place for a long time and just be loyal. But of course, it's about the loyalty, but it's like, if you really like the place and it's like a good environment, good people around, I'm sure you can keep it up for many years, right? And I'm really surprised. I didn't know you are there since a white belt.
The owner of the academy, Ingrid Katzberg, she's just absolutely amazing, and she's just been fantastic to me over the years, and to all of this staff. And it definitely is someone I feel a lot of loyalty to, and she's definitely created so many opportunities for me to be able to train, teach, travel, just kind of to have some of the jiu-jitsu lifestyle, right? And
exactly.
And has always been just really great to me. And so I've always felt at home there, and a really great community of people. So.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, man. Like the last time that I went there, we went over, the place is amazing, place, big dojo, like many different spaces. I really like that. And so since you took over when did you take over the program, like, to teach there?
My former instructor had left. He had his own other school, actually, and so he was splitting his time between both, and then just naturally more of his time was focused on his own academy. So it was a slow, gradual progression, and then start teaching a couple classes a week. There were a couple other students who were also teaching. Mike Morris, who's still training at Champions as well, was teaching classes. And so there's been a couple other people who were helping me teach. I was also for a period of time teaching at my former professor's other academy, which was in Coquitlam, a different part of the greater Vancouver area. And then at the end of 2019, I came back to teaching at Champions full-time, but I'd been teaching pretty much the majority of the classes from the end of 2017.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you were, what belt were you when you started?
When I started teaching, I first started covering classes as like a blue belt. So when I started training at Champions, like everybody was a white belt, and the person teaching classes was a purple belt. And so in 2013, I'd gone with my previous instructor and my teammate down to San Diego to do our instructor's course, and that's where I met Josh Rapport. And so it was August 2013, and at the time, you had to be minimum blue belts to take the instructor's course. And then at that point, we just started with like covering some classes when our instructor couldn't make it, and then gradually, I think by the time I was a couple of stripes blue belt, I was teaching like the Tuesday, Thursday night class, like the kind of the later night class that we'd open to expand the schedule.
I get it. Like it's I don't know if it's very common, but it's like similar like stories, right? Because I start teaching as a blue belt too, and many of other people that I know that are instructors right now, I don't know if it's the passion or the opportunity, the passion plus the opportunity makes it happen, right? So if you're ready, you just grab it and keep going. Like I started as a blue belt too. I had a very good time like starting to teaching, but it was in a weird situation because my coach had to do a surgery and he couldn't, like, it was like very bad. He had to do I forgot why he had to do the surgery. Anyway, so I took over. He said, like, Kelvin, I'm sure you can teach. I was so scared at the beginning, I was a competitor already. I was like competing, winning tournaments. And he was like, no, I'm sure you can teach. I want you to teach. But I was so insecure at the beginning, and I was like, no. But then, man, as a first class that I taught and things happened, was just like eye-opening, I was like, oh my God, I really like this. I used to see myself as a really a big competitor, but I shift a little bit to teaching and start to focus on that because I want to see like I had the idea of longevity, in jiu-jitsu, because I had like some injuries and stuff. I was like, you know what, I want to keep doing this for the rest of my life. So I have to shift and maybe start teaching and just sharing the art, and I really like this. I still compete a lot. Who doesn't want to be a great competitor, right? Who doesn't want to be there and competing and just living the lifestyle, traveling and doing tournaments? It's great, right? It's a great feeling. And also producing tournaments, because it's really nice to go out there, make the event happen. Like last time we went there was for the Abu Dhabi, right? If I can.
Yeah, AJP. That was end of
right?
2018. I feel November
19, 19.
Yeah.
19, yes. Yeah. So man, it is always a great experience, right? We get to see each other. We go around 2 days. It's good enough and keeps our relation going, man. And throughout this time, I've seen you like I remember you used to teach in 2 places, right? Like you said before.
Yes, correct.
So our Champion was the focus for you.
Well, my instructor at the time had gone and opened his own academy, and then I was kind of covering classes at Champions. And after a while, I wanted to just focus on just jiu-jitsu full time. And so then I was actually doing more time at the secondary academy and doing maybe like 3, maybe 4 classes a week at Champions in the evening. And then we had teammates like Mike Morris and Matt Cotton, people covering the other nights that I wasn't there. and those guys really stepped up, and they had gone through instructors courses and stuff, and had their own goals in jiu-jitsu and competing and stuff like that. So they were really great to fill those time slots and stuff like that. So it was awesome having like a lot of people around who wanted to share jiu-jitsu and were keen on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's nice. It's once you have people around you that wants to share and kind of help, it's pretty good. It's a great support. But throughout the beginning, Sean, how did you feel? Like, when did you discover that you're like, you know what, I want to teach, I want to keep going with this? How was like that click?
That probably was like a couple of years in. The first couple of years were like really slow. Like I said, our instructors had kind of like cycled a lot and stuff. We didn't have a whole lot of class times. We didn't really have like even a lot of understanding of like the point system or anything. So everything really started, I would say, like the fall of 2011. Our instructor came, and he was just like really passionate about jiu-jitsu, really committed, competed a lot. And then started getting us doing tournaments, and then starting to feel that lifestyle of like having a team and, going to a tournament, competing, cheering each other on, the whole process of just training together, having like a goal, everything like that, just kind of fell in love with it. The community of people that you started to meet, like when you start going to tournaments and stuff, and then you're like, man, you see like it's a lot bigger than just your little view that you have in your academy on the mat, that there's other academies and there's people who have different teaching philosophies and different styles. And the first couple tournaments is where you saw the bigger picture. So
for sure, I totally agree. And so how was your skill development? How did you, because there is a point that you're training, and then you're going to start teaching. Like you said, you start teaching as a blue belt, taking over in a few classes and stuff. How were you working like to keep this up? You had the opportunity, and then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna make this opportunity the best, and then I'll keep studying it. But how did you develop this? How you kept going until like nowadays?
Yeah, I felt like I've always felt like I've progressed slow. I never felt like I was like even from the beginning, like the best person in the class or the best person in the room. It was more just like keep showing up, persistence, just keep showing up. That's really the only thing I think, is just make a habit of just going. Like it's not an option not to go. Just go, train.
Good job.
Yeah, in the beginning, like. Again, in those first couple of years, like I broke my hand, I had a staph infection. That was all in like the first 12 months. I was out like 3 months with a broken hand. And so like
at training.
Pardon?
You broke the hand at training?
Yeah, I broke my hand while I was still training kickboxing. And then I was like out like 3 months. I had to get 2 pins in my hand. And as soon as I got cleared to come back, I felt like, oh man, I missed all this time in jiu-jitsu. And I just started doing like extra training with like my buddy where I could, to fill up the catch up on the classes I missed.
Yes.
And I ended up getting the staph infection. Boom, out for like a couple of weeks, and then just in the beginning it was like difficult to stay motivated, but the fact that I couldn't train is actually what did it. And then once I could actually train, then it was like, man, let's do this. Because once you got the first little taste, and then you weren't allowed to train, it was like drove you crazy, right? So
can you explain this type of motivation that kept you going? What did you feel that makes you like going to class?
I felt like I was like falling behind, I guess, like being like a little competitive, like that way. My older brother was like training at the time too, and it was like he got his first stripe on the white belt before me, and I was like, no way, like come on, I can't let that, man. And so just feeling like I didn't want to like fall behind the pack, that I didn't want to like miss out on what was being done, and like lose that time. I started training when I was like just turning 23, and I think everyone wishes they started training earlier. And I was like, man, like if I missed a bunch of time this year, it's like pretty much starting at 24, right? and I just didn't want to lose that time. So,
I know, yeah, everybody, but yeah, like everyone has I believe everyone has this type of thought when you kind of get injury and stuff and you really enjoying that. You're just like, come on, man, I don't want to fall behind, or I don't want to keep going. It's funny because you mentioned that, and one of my students the other day, he hurt his elbow, and this guy, kept me like talking to me and like, coach, should I take a time off or should I keep coming and drill, because I feel like I'm gonna fall behind and people gonna evolve and this. Like, I was like, man, take it easy, like heal first and come back to training, because if you get more injured, it means more time out of the mat, right? It's better heal faster and then go back,
Exactly.
so you can keep going. But this mentality of competitive, like when you're competitive, this might not show as like the way how much you're competitive, but shows that you have that, like, I would say an instinct to be competitive, right? Because some people, they don't want to be competitive at all, because in their mind might be like a bad thing. In my
Yeah.
opinion, I like competition. We go around, we do tournaments and stuff. But I always say to people, and this is one thing that might keep them in jiu-jitsu, is the competitiveness. Like you go there to try to win, and if you lose, it's just like, okay, I lost. I can keep going. It's not like you're gonna die, you're gonna break your arm or whatever. You can tap before anything happen, and you have the chance to do all over again in the next weekend or the next month. And just keep building up more confidence, and keep like you at class, right? Keep
Yeah.
you in class so you can get better to go to tournaments. Do you feel like throughout these years this could be like a help for you to keep you training and be motivated just to be competitive, or to learn more?
But even if, well, definitely learning more, but even if you're not like consider yourself super competitive, I mean, at least be competitive with yourself, like to be improving, right? Right. And so
Yes,
you
good
don't have to
point.
be like, this like crazy competitor or whatever to feel like, oh, uh, I'm missing training and I'm being competitive. It's like you just being competitive with yourself. You don't want to lose a year of training you can put into yourself and increase your own potential, right. And so you can
Yeah,
be like competitive and not wanting to miss that time because of that, but it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to be like a crazy competitor. It's just being upset that you're losing that time for yourself, that you're not, reaching that potential, you're not building your skills the way you want, you're not getting any further ahead in your jiu-jitsu game. And so yeah, it's definitely very motivating, and I think it should motivate you to train smart too, right? And be really good to your
exactly.
training partners. Take care of your training partners, because man, no one wants to get hurt and then miss that time. And then if your training
Exactly.
partners are all hurt and missing time, they're not going to be as good, and you're supposed to be helping each other raise the bar, right? And so
Good point. Good
yeah,
point. Exactly. Like, training partners are very important, right? You got to take care of them too, because if you get hurt, you're not going to be there for your training partner, and there is that connection. The connection is there. Like, you go to training, everybody is connected in any way there, because you go with everybody, but your training partner is your training partner no matter what.
yeah,
You always like to be there with that guy, with that girl, and train and do drills, roll, share the day, because the gym is a place like you go to train to learn, but you also excel all the negative, like you take all the stress and the negativity that you have in the day, put out there in the training, and then you have the rest of the day to talk, and then have that feeling of friendship with your training partner, and just keep going, right? Like, one thing that I feel like that motivates a lot of people is this, like the network, the feeling that you go when and you feel at the gym that you're like, how can I say that you are welcome. You get to the gym, and then you see your coach smile to you, hug, like, shake your hand, welcome you to the training, and then after that you can actually talk a little bit and share the experience, right? Do you
man. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, do you think like, as a white belt, what is one of the things that you most see that can create that hype in the white belt, so they can keep going? As a coach, I'm talking as a coach, like, you see, oh, this guy, like, you see some people, they start training, they're kind of shy, but then
Yeah,
you have that job to to get them in the group and then to motivate them to keep going? Like, do you notice anything that can make them really keep going?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, yeah. I think in the beginning as a white belt, like you're making the most progress. Like you're learning so much. Like, you know, after 10 years, 12 years, there's still so much to learn. But in the beginning, you're making so much progress, and that should like really motivate you and encourage you to keep going, because it's like you see someone from like day one, and then you see them like 6 weeks later, and they've already learned so much. And 6 weeks is nothing. Right, like nothing. For them it probably feels a long time, because like they just started training. You know, they're like, oh, it's so much. It's like this whole world you can be immersed in. But yeah, you make so much progress as a beginner, and that should be really encouraging. You're learning so many new things. I used to get almost a little bit intimidated. Like you just start to be feeling comfortable with some of the things at half guard, and then like you hear about De La Riva guard for the first time, and you're like, oh man, it's so much to know. Like I don't even feel like I'm good at this yet. But again, it's just like great, because there's so much knowledge. There's so much jiu-jitsu out there. You're never going to see all of it. But as you start to go through the bouts, you hit plateaus and things like that. I think everyone's been there. But in the beginning, you're learning so much, and you should just use that as a way to be motivated to just keep going, because you're going to learn the most right in the beginning.
There's a lot to be learned, right? Like you said, even after white belt 10 12 years, you just keep learning. It's in the beginning, it's more you learn the whole complexity, right? Like the movements, balance, this and that. But then after 12 years, everything is more about details, right? Like, oh man, I missed this detail. Like this is gonna really help me. Just a little turn of your hip or a position of your foot, that to hip escape, to whatever. It's just like the small things we get to learn like farther down the road. But in the beginning, man, it's so much that you actually get overwhelmed, right? Like I remember doing 1, 2, 3 classes, and then maybe after those classes was everything pretty good, but then after that I couldn't remember anything. It's like boom.
Yeah, information overload.
Yeah, like have you been at those moments?
Yeah, I remember in the beginning, like especially like white belt, blue belt, you go to like seminars, and like, man, the guy would show like a lot, and then I would come away and I'd be like, oh, like I think I remember one and a half things, but he showed like 9 things, 10 things.
3 hours of seminar, 3 hours of seminar, right?
Yeah, and I always kind of enjoyed the seminars a little bit more, where like they didn't necessarily maybe show as much like individual like techniques, like a high number of techniques, but like you got a really overall better understanding of like 1 to 3 things, because you're going to retain more of that. But I'm a slow learner. Like I read very slow, like I absorb information very slow. And so I always liked it when it was like a smaller range of topic that they were covering, and just more in depth on a few things. I always preferred seminars like that. Otherwise, there's information overload. And then I started noticing the guys with like the notebooks, and they were like taking notes and like stuff like that. And I was like, oh, these guys are smart, because they don't want to forget anything. And like, or they would like set up their phone. They would ask permission if they could set up their phone to, film the professor conducting the seminar, so that they could like keep the details, right? And I was like, they're not, these guys know how to learn.
They're not putting everything here. They're putting something in the book, something in the phone, so that they can keep learning, right? I've seen a lot of guys like that. And they, like you said, they're like very smart. They keep notes and stuff. But man, I'm not the guy to keep trying to note.
Yeah, me neither.
Like I just can't. I'm not a fast learner too, and I would say I'm not the slowest one, but I keep up pretty good, and I try my best to not fall behind, and I always learn too. I'm always watching videos and listening to like great guys, like positions and philosophies and stuff like that. And I really like what's his name, man? Leandro Lo. It's one of the guys that I most watched. Like I really watched like throughout his whole career, like since lightweight until light heavy or whatever. He won many stuff, and he was always somebody that I was like, man, I really like his style. I like the way he plays. So I try to learn it in that like in that, how can I say, style of, you know, competition and playing jiu-jitsu. But people, when they start, like you said, they have like an overload. They have so much information at the beginning, and from day one to 6 weeks or 3 weeks later, or 3 months later, it's like very different, and they don't realize that. Like, they keep coming to you and ask, like, I'm sure you had those guys like, hey coach, like, what should I do to get better? Like, these guys is getting me all the time at this position. But when you see these guys rolling, he's just like going over people, you know, like dominating, doing stuff. But inside of their head, they're like, man, I can't do stuff. You have like students like that?
Man, we had this one guy who, man, he like Oleg, he would just like smash everyone in the training room, like all the time. And I think if like one person ever like even got like a pass on him or whatever, right away he'd be like, show me how'd that happen. Because like he was the guy who, yeah, it was just like, whoa, like okay, you got on me, now I know how to shut that down. Like he didn't want, if anyone was able to get anything on him, he wanted to like go and study that right away, because he was like, all right, I'm just going to shore up that hole right away. He didn't wait till like after class to ask like the instructor or anything like that. He was just like, show me that. Like you're like, oh man, they're not going to get that twice. But yeah, you definitely have some people who are like, I find again with beginners, they're like, oh man, like I'm not getting this submission here or whichever, but they've made so much improvement. Like before, they were getting like swept all the time. And I think maybe there's this like expectation where, you know, maybe they just see themselves like, you know, getting the finish on lots of people and stuff. And maybe that's the measure that they're using to mark their progress. But yeah, it's like, man, you're doing the right thing. You know, maybe they're getting tapped like later on in the round, but they're escaping the back. You know, they're not getting swept from where they used to. And it's like these really small little progressions. Like, I don't think you just go right to the top of the mountain from getting like
0 to 100, right?
Smashing other people. It's like you're getting smashed and then smashed a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less.
Exactly.
They're maybe expecting this big jump in progression
out of nowhere, right?
Yeah. I'm the worst. Like, a lot of the time they're like, what can I do to get better? I'm like, just come train more.
Keep coming, right? Come to class.
Like, yeah, just like more class, more time on the more mat time, and then use your mat time wisely, right? Like you get some people who you know, measure their mat time in like hours, but they maybe don't use the whole hour to train. They spend like
in the right way. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
There'll always be time after class to like chit chat, or like if you really are there more for like the social aspect, like, man, grab coffee after, but use like the time you have for class schoolwork. Like, especially if it's like, man, what if you only have 1 hour? You can only go 2-3 times a week. That's not a lot of jiu-jitsu. So like, make the most of the hour.
Make the most of the hour.
And then catch up after the class. Because, you know, you probably need to have the social side of it to keep it fun and you know, keep it playful and to keep enjoying the whole process. But, you know, definitely know when it's time to do the work. And that's when class is on. So
Exactly. That's actually a good point, man. Like, there's people that I know they are going to class to enjoy and make more network, friendship, or whatever. But if you can only make 1 or 2 class a week, and you can only have that specific hour, you gotta make the most of it, right? It's jiu-jitsu. It's an easy thing, at the same time can be so complicated, right? Whenever you start to get to really difficult positions and difficult passing movements, if you don't pay attention and you don't enjoy that hour, like trying to study and make it happen, I don't think you're going to be progressing faster. Like, not faster, definitely, but you're not going to be progressing the way you should, right?
Yeah.
I had one guy that came like and asked me right in the beginning of like, he started training and he came to me like, oh, how long should I expect to get promoted?
Yeah, like, you always get that. There's always that guy.
Yeah. I was like, and that was my first time somebody asked me, you know, And I was like, I kind of stopped 1 second to like process that, and I was like, listen, man, everybody learns different. Everybody takes time to understand things. So it's all about you, you know.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to progress faster, come to more classes. You know, be at more classes. Make, oh, but I only can make 2 classes a week. I said, okay, no problem. So make those 2 classes the best you can, and that's how you're gonna know how you're gonna evolve, right? A lot of people comes with these questions, and sometimes I don't wanna be rude or stuff, like, say, man, just go to the mat and keep training, right? Like, we as a
Yeah.
coach, we actually gotta take care of these people, even though some questions are just like, man, why you wanna know that, right? Like, what do you like? What would you say to somebody that, like, they want to progress like faster and just keep going? Like, it's not about be the best, but they wanted to progress fast. Like, what can you say to a white belt?
Probably wouldn't be too different from what your response was
Yeah.
to the person who asked you. A lot of it's going to be in your hands. Like, if you want to progress faster, obviously come to more classes. If you can't, well, what can you do outside? First, make the classes, like you said, those 2 hours the best you can, and nothing is going to supplement mat time, in my opinion. That's just me. Like, nothing else.
I
Like, the
get
time
it.
on the
Yeah.
mats, that's going to make you the best. But then, okay, what else can you do? In your diet, can you ride your bike to work to get in better condition? Is that like a possibility for you, right? Is
Better
there
shape.
getting
Yeah.
into, yeah? Can you, what kind of content are you going over? Can you, maybe watch, some matches, some tutorials, some instructionals,
More
like, to
jiu-jitsu
supplement.
outside of the mat, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but that will
Exactly.
never, again, like, I don't think that will ever replace, like, even one class, like on the mat, like, and put as much time on the mat as you can, and then when you're resting, recovering, or when you miss a class because you have to stay late at work, see if you can supplement it with those other things.
Yeah, for sure.
But I
For
think
sure.
a lot
That's
of people
great.
ask a question and they can ask themselves the question too. They're just asking you because they're looking for you to give them the answer as the coach, but it's like, man, you could have asked yourself all those questions first. Like, ask yourself,
Exactly.
what do you think you can do to go better? Like, you already know, like, you're a smart guy. Ask
Exactly.
yourself,
Exactly.
what can you do better? And then you don't even have to ask me, right? And then you can go, oh, or if I come and say, hey, you should start training more, like, you know what, I can't because can only come to 2 days a week, but I started riding my bike and I started listening to this, jiu-jitsu podcast while
Exactly.
I'm riding my bike, whatever. And so I'm doing
Exactly.
everything I can when I'm not here to, like, add as much as I can to my game or my understanding of jiu-jitsu or my physical conditioning. So
It's a complete change of lifestyle, right? Like,
yeah.
to get better, to enjoy the lifestyle of jiu-jitsu. I feel like people, when you and me started, was like completely changed, right? Like, in for me, when I started, was just like, man, I love this. I love this. I want, like you said, I rode my bike. I rode my bike to work many times, to the gym many times. I was always trying to get better jiu-jitsu, doing things outside of jiu-jitsu to get to the mat and be like, okay, I'm in shape. I can be like, I'm not tired for the class. I can learn more. I can pay attention. And get more stuff easily. And for sure, there are things, like you said. There's no better thing than the mat time to learn. But if you can do the supplements, like some stuff outside to complement those mat times that you cannot take more, would be great to help, right? Like, it's a good tip for white belt. It's a very great, like, good tip to white belts. And so, change a little bit of subjects. How is the community out there? How is Vancouver doing with the jiu-jitsu?
Well, again, I think everyone's, currently going through, like, the hard time. I think a lot of people miss the tournament scene, competing. I think people miss open mats. Definitely
Open.
like group classes, but I think jiu-jitsu is, like, so unique to other martial arts that, like, you have this, like, kind of open mat culture where some people can, they're from a different gym and they'll come and if you, especially like if your gym has like a designated open mat, you know, like a time like once a week or whatever, and then, you know, some people bring their friend and they come here. It creates such a community that I think maybe some other maybe other martial arts where it's like tighter, where it's, you know, you don't really, you know, have that sort of open mat culture or sharing with other people. I think people are really missing that. You know, I know a lot of people out here like cross train. A lot of the professors out here train together, and so I think you know, people are missing that, and we're hoping, you know, in the next coming months that we can get back to you know having events, because at least for me, like I'm at the academy 6 days a week, and you know, I have my girlfriend of like 11 years and our dog, and you know, it's hard for me to get out to other places when you have other family commitments and stuff like this. When you're at the academy 6 days a week, right? Like right now, I'm the only person teaching at Champions for the Jiu-Jitsu program. There's no second instructor or anything like that. So it's makes it hard to get out to other places, and you know, tournaments are like always a time where like, hey, you go and you see people and
see everybody, right?
Not even from your own city, but you know, people come up from Washington State, Alberta, the Toronto crew comes out. You see all these people. You get to see them a few times a year, and I think people are looking forward to getting back to that ASAP.
That's exciting. That's exciting. I know. Do you guys get any schedule for tournaments already or no? Like somebody put up anything?
Not right now. We were hoping to be able to have, there was a tournament that was supposed to go ahead in December, but then once it goes on November 19th, when group training got shut down, it was the BC JJF had a tournament going, and so that's been postponed. So I would imagine that would be like probably the first one
to happen
back, to happen back, and it would be.
So
hopefully we see all the tournaments coming back.
So nobody put anything then. Like they didn't announce anything. Like here in Toronto, we had Next Gen announcing some stuff, and we had Ontario Open. I can't really remember the day that they announced, but let's see. I don't know how is the vaccination or whatever. Everything's gonna depend on that. So I believe if we go on track with the vaccinations and everything of COVID, after July, we might have some tournaments happening in Toronto. Of course, we know Toronto has a bigger community, you know, like a lot bigger. So that's why I believe things will be happening faster. But I hope Vancouver, man, can be back on track. And like I said, go to tournament, see those persons, see the community. It's an amazing feeling, right? It's a give and take. Like you go there, you bring your students, you want to be part of the tournament, you want to go there to support the team, support the tournament, support the local jiu-jitsu community. And I miss that a lot. Can't wait to be back with that. And so just to pretty much finalize, Sean, I would like to ask you, maybe you can tell with your own words and stuff, like what can you say to a person that they want to try jiu-jitsu, but they're afraid of maybe injuries, they're afraid of like the training? Because you know, like when you talk about jiu-jitsu, a lot of people, they don't really know what's happening when you're actually in the ground there. You know, just see people taking down and then smashing, and people really wants to try. I see a lot of people, they're like, oh my God, I want to try, but I'm scared to break my arm or to do this. What could you say to those persons, and what can they do to try jiu-jitsu?
Man, first I would say it's safer than like most sports, like not even just like combat sports. And I'm not saying, like, I definitely don't want to give the impression that you're not going to get injured, but I've been at Champions, like I said, since the end of 2009. The worst injuries I've seen to students, they all got playing soccer or snowboard, like for real, like
not even at jiu-jitsu.
people breaking, they're like not even at kickboxing, you know what I mean? Like you know, a lot of guys who come in and they're like, oh man, like they're starting martial arts and they're like, I'm worried because I had these injuries because of soccer, right? And it's like broken ankles, wrecked knees, all of this. You know, in jiu-jitsu you get to tap, so a lot of the time, like, man, the accidents always happen in any sport, and in a combat sport it can definitely happen. But I think a lot of injuries happen, it's like, so someone's not respecting their own boundaries or their own body, or maybe not being like realistic with themselves or where they're at, and they kind of maybe could have prevented themselves. That being said, as far as injuries go, like you get to tap,
just 3 taps, right?
Yeah, and like sometimes things can happen in a scramble or when things are going fast, but like, man, just if you're worried about getting injured, like give up the takedown. If that's what's happening or something, it's just practice. Like who cares, right? Like most injuries happen in practice, so it's you're maybe there's no point in injuring yourself trying to stop a takedown or a sweep or something that's already happening, or a submission. You've already made the mistake. You've already given it up. Don't hurt yourself. Keep yourself safe, and then just start a new round, and hopefully you learn from your mistake. You'll probably make it a few more times, but I would say just go for it. Don't let it hold you back. Like that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Good words, man. I agree with this. I think people should really give it a try, because jiu-jitsu, like I said, it's a contact sport. For sure, the injuries can happen, but I have seen worse injuries like happening in soccer, snowboarding. I had one guy that, he never want to try jiu-jitsu because he had like his knees like all messed up because of soccer. But then he started jiu-jitsu and it's already almost 4 years he never stopped. And he plays soccer once a month, and maybe not even once a month, No injuries at all. Sometimes some joint pains and stuff because it happens with anything. But overall, it's a great try, and I'm sure it can help with a lot of other stuff, right? Like mental health, get in shape, lose weight, many others,
It'll improve your life in so many ways. Like you can probably attest to this. When you see jiu-jitsu help change somebody's life, jiu-jitsu being a vessel to help them. I had a friend. Everyone at this work environment, they're like, oh man, Sean's the crazy guy always talking about jiu-jitsu. And man, I brought 3 guys finally that came to try a class, and one of them stuck with it, and man, he lost 50 pounds, and man, he started doing tournaments, and like
big change.
Man, like the 50 pounds wasn't just from jiu-jitsu. Like he started eating better, started like working out more, but it was a catalyst for him to start making better decisions. Like I've seen I've seen some guys who started training with us who were like, man, I don't think this guy's going to like make it very long. I don't know if this kid's like, going to have the grit to stick it for the long haul. And man, you see those kids like 8-9 years later, this guy now, and they're like, man, like purple belts, brown belts, like that. And they've, you see how far they've grown in life, and like they tell you right to your face, man, jiu-jitsu is a huge part of it. Like when we were closed periodically during COVID, and then we were able to open again, a lot of the students, man, they're like, I was going crazy without jiu-jitsu. Like they would come up and they'd be very open with you. You also know this as a coach. People will be very open with you about, how not having jiu-jitsu affected their mental health. And you're man, like some days as a instructor, like when you're first starting out, like I remember my first classes were like so small when I was a blue belt, and I was like, man, no one cares. Like, my class, I don't have many people coming out. And then, man, you have some people who, they've changed their lives, and physically, their mental well-being is better. They've met a lot of amazing people. They've made friends. I actually, my girlfriend Anush, she signed me up for my intro at Champions. So I even walking through the door.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
She was the front desk girl.
Wow.
And I was walking in as a student, and and I think a couple of weeks it's our 11-year anniversary, and so like I can definitely say it changed my life, because like it's my full-time job now. It's how I met my wife, and I've met so many amazing people along the way. Like so give jiu-jitsu a chance, because you never know how it could change your life. Like that's for sure.
That's it, man. Thank you for the words. I appreciate that. I didn't know you met your wife at Champions too. That's a great news. And man, so since journey in jiu-jitsu, you guys pretty much been together, right?
Yeah, man.
All the time. That's
great. Through all of it. Yeah.
That's great.
She was like competing kickboxing at the time. So
wow, that's good, man. That's amazing. I like that. I really like that. Sean, man, I really appreciate you take this time to be with me here, you know, and talk a little bit about jiu-jitsu and give your experience. Talk a little bit about like how you deal with stuff and show people that they can completely change their life by training and, you know, get confidence in everything that jiu-jitsu brings it. It's funny because every time I talk to people, we have like similar ideas, but some like it's different, but it's similar in a way, you know, with different philosophies and stuff. But the main thing is like jiu-jitsu change all our lives, you know, to I'm sure to better, because there's no way to say it was like worse. You got your wife, you got jiu-jitsu in your life, you know, you got everything. So man, it's great to know that. And one more time, thank you for, you know, for taking this hour and come to the podcast and share your experience.
well, thank you so much, man. And hopefully I get to share the mats with you soon. We get to see all the East Coast families soon. We miss you guys. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thank you, brother.
Take care, bro.